This is the Guns Magazine podcast, episode number 61. Hi there, and welcome to the New Year's Day 2021 edition of the Guns Magazine podcast. I'm your host and the editor of Guns Magazine, Brent Wheat. Thanks for joining us as we talk to the interesting people who make up the world of shooting, hunting, and the firearms industry. Today, to start out what is hopefully a much better year for everybody, I talk with Suzi Huntington. We just had Suzi on the show in episode number 55 to talk about her experiences as a longtime San Diego cop, and it proved so popular we had to invite her back. Today, Suzi and I talk about men, women, and firearms, a sometimes contentious but always interesting mix. The world of hunting and firearms was traditionally a man's world, but things are certainly changing, and there's nobody better to explain the ladies' side of things than Suzi. Now here's our talk about women are from Mars, men are from some other strange planet, and how we can all get along a little better on the firing line and hunting camp. Well, good rainy afternoon, Suzi Huntington.
Good afternoon, Brent.
It's great to talk to you. You are probably our quickest repeat guest. We just had you on, about 5 or 6 episodes ago, and we talked about your views on law enforcement and things there, and people really wanted to hear more of your outlook on things. So here we are, New Year's Day. We're going to talk about ladies in the shooting world.
Okay, let's talk.
Well, you're a lady, so you're qualified.
Okay, good. Thank goodness.
We've established that. No, I'm looking at your bio that your wonderful husband Roy sent me, and it's awfully long. But some of the stuff, you've been in the industry forever. You've been an editor of American Cop magazine. You have been to Africa. You have designed tactical products, especially clothing for women. You've participated in a lot of lady-focused events in the industry. So I think you're eminently qualified to have this chat today.
Well, fire away. Let's see what we can come up with.
All right. Well, I guess the question that I have off the top of my head is, what is your perception of the status of women in the industry today? I mean, we'd like to think in 2021, we're pretty much all equal. We do the same things. We shoot the same way. But coming from your vantage point, is that necessarily true?
Women have really made inroads in this industry, and they've made those inroads due to the trailblazers, if you will, that preceded many of the women that are entering the industry currently. Just a real short list right off the top of my head would be Linda Powell from Mossberg, Amy Grant, she's gunsight and double tap. She's former law enforcement herself. Susan Hood Walter with Laser Max, and Anita Carson, our own Anita Carson that we had at PDC. So Joyce Laturi from Spyderco. A lot of these gals have been making inroads for the younger generation, and that's great. When
you say inroads, I mean, what were some of the things the ladies were up against in our industry?
Many of the same things that women have had to fight against for years. It's a male-dominated industry, so they have to be very comfortable working around men, just like with police work that had been in the industry forever. So they were all old school. So we were trying to somehow blend old into the new.
Yeah. And when we're talking about industry, I got to thinking about it. Actually, we're kind of talking about two different worlds here. One would be within the professional shooting industry, retailers, manufacturers, wholesalers, et cetera, and of course, journalists. But the other, I guess, side of the coin is just shooters in general, all the way down to the local gun shop. Do you think equality, if you will, is the same both places? Do you think it's as easy for ladies to go to the local gun shop as it is for, a new guy shooter?
In some respects, it's getting easier for women to go into the local gun shop. and make purchases. I don't think there is as much, hey, little lady, there's that pink Lady Smith on the wall over there.
Yeah.
I don't think there's as much of that going on as there used to be. There is still a little bit of the, well, you should, as a entry shooter, as a female, you should be sticking with a revolver, you know, in a smaller caliber. There is still a certain amount of that, rather than educating the woman on what she thinks she might want to buy.
Right.
If she wants to buy a semi-auto, then why would you fight her on it? Help her learn the gun. Don't try and convince her that something else is more appropriate for her.
Yeah.
So there is still a little bit of that going on.
Well, you know, I got to say, in my experience as a teacher, you would have teaching novice students. It seemed about 50-50. You'd have ladies show up that were new shooters, and they had the right equipment, good equipment that met their needs and helped them. And then you had about half that showed up with either the $22 $79 gun that the clerk at the gun store convinced her to buy, and a lousy holster, or her husband or boyfriend or whatever. Here, take this, and that's all you need. And all that did was impede their learning. But it seemed to be a fairly common thing. And I actually had a student one time turn to her husband and say, "You know what I think? I think this is the wrong gun for me." He just kind of went, "I'll be at the other end of the line right now." That was prudent.
Yeah. Too many women, I think, struggle if their boyfriend or husband is trying to teach them about shooting. There is a little bit of the put the way too big of a gun in her hands the first time out, and it ends up scaring the crap out of her. So she immediately has a bad taste in her mouth with shooting, rather than starting out small and working their way up. And not necessarily just because he's your husband or your boyfriend does he know everything there is about teaching, or guns for that matter.
I'll just leave that alone.
Take it back to the good spot. Going back to the gun shop, if the clerk behind the counter doesn't know a whole heck of a lot about what he's dealing with, then of course he's going to make bad decisions for that lady who's trying to pick up something for a class. So it's kind of a two-edged sword there. If she doesn't know what she's looking for or needs, and neither does the guy behind the counter, well, you're destined for failure. Yep,
exactly. And, you kind of touched on something that I definitely had down here and it's kind of an in-joke within the industry, is shrink it and pink it. So do you think the equipment side of it is coming around, or are we still a ways off?
I definitely think it's coming around. I understand the whole pink thing. I really do. I don't agree with it. It's not my cup of tea. Besides that, purple's my favorite color anyway. But if that is going to bring women into the shooting sports, why should I poo-poo it?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. To me, it turns it into a Barbie thing. And it's like, I don't want people to think of me as being a dingbat and being Barbie.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be carrying a gun, I want it to be more taken more seriously than being in a situation where if I have to bring a gun out, it's pink. I think that kind of dumbs it down a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's my personal feeling on it. If there are women out there who want to have pink guns and, the pink jackets and shirts and be part of the pink ladies for all I care, go for it.
Yeah. That also gets into a subject that I'm sure you have an opinion or two on, because I've had my ear chewed on many times by ladies, and it's the whole idea that the clothing, especially for women aren't just smaller versions of men. Do you see the tactical, especially clothing side or hunting side for women? Is there enough variety now, or do we still need to come away on that?
I think there's a much wider variety. There are some excellent brands coming into play. I'm testing out some pants that are made by women. What's the name? First Spear. Oh my goodness. They're a line of tactical pants that not only can you get a waist size that might be 2 sizes smaller than your hips, but you can get them in a variety of lengths too. So it's not that you're trying to stuff your body into a female version of a men's pants. These are actually designed with the women's figure in mind. So we are definitely making some inroads there too. Many clothing lines, when they first start out, might be a little bit on the expensive side. That's a really touchy subject, because we come in so many different shapes and sizes.
Right.
Inseams, big hips, no hips. There's a lot to be dealt with there. So I really do understand. I feel pity for the designers when they try to bring something to the women's market.
Yeah.
It's very expensive. And I have learned that over the years of all of my begging and pleading for women's line. It's a very expensive proposition. And at this particular moment, when you think of COVID, who wants to take a risk on a women's line?
Well, exactly. Where does fashion fit in all this? Because guys and gals certainly have differing viewpoints on that, and that's probably the most extreme difference we have of what guys consider attractive and versus what women do. What role does that play in shooting equipment for the ladies?
It makes a big difference. Most women's clothing is going to fit closer to our bodies. They are generally made out of lighter weight fabrics. And so the idea of being able to wear a belt, remember our belts are mostly about fashion. There's very little function in our belts.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is most of us have a set of hips.
Mm-hmm.
So our hips are going to keep our pants in place. It's not like you guys where the ass bandit grabs a hold of you and you lose your pants unless you've got suspenders or a belt on. It's true?
Yeah.
Okay. So our hips generally, I think for the preponderance of women out there, we have hips, and so our pants are going to stay in place. So our belts are really more about fashion.
Yeah.
You also don't see them being made in thicker, stiffer, if you will, leather.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of putting a holster on a women's standard fashion belt, it's like having, a soup sandwich in a baggie because it's just not going to stay in place.
Yeah.
So there are those issues. So then it becomes a choice of, do I do a shoulder holster? Well, you could do a shoulder holster, but I found, because I've tried them, they have a tendency to take your blouse or your shirt and kind of wad it up in the back. There are purses that have concealment slots in them. They're wonderful if you practice with it, and that's a big caveat. I think many women don't practice with their concealed carry purses, and they don't understand that you shove your hand in that holster area, and you either get it raked by a very stiff zipper or by Velcro.
Yeah.
And it can be a fight to get it out too.
Well, so I've got to ask, I know you carry a gun every day, all the time. How do you carry?
I mostly carry it in a holster on my side, on my waist.
Yeah.
I do carry occasionally in my purse. I don't practice with concealed carry purses, so I generally don't carry a purse like that. Now, I'm going to go in the Wayback Machine. Do you remember when Fanny Packs were popular back in the 80s?
I'm sorry, I still use a Fanny Pack, but go ahead, yes.
They're actually coming back in style again. But I used to carry my gun in a Fanny Pack, not the Bianchi ones that came out. They were the first dedicated concealed carry Fanny Packs that I remember.
And they looked thoroughly tactical.
I used to carry mine in one of the, who was the maker? Mount Everest, I believe it was.
Yeah.
I used to carry my full-size SIG in one of those. Now I would carry it upside down, so it would the grip would be up facing my chin, and that's how I learned to carry in a fanny pack. And I got wicked fast with it too. So I think that the drill there is you can kind of carry your gun in just about any mode as long as it is what you practice. It's what you go back to every day.
Exactly. Well, before we get off the topic of clothing and all that, this is probably the single most important question I'm going to ask. And since the majority of our audience is guys, this is why this is a really critical question. Having myself failed in this regard many, many times, what advice do you give to guys when they're considering buying a woman in their life, a holster, even a gun, clothing for shooting, any of that stuff? What kind of advice can you save our lives with?
Well, I wouldn't try to buy it for her. I would offer to take her for, I don't know, make it a day out, a date. You know, we're going to go buy you a gun, or we're going to go buy you a holster, or whatever. Make it a date. That way she can try stuff on. I know you guys hate to go to the store and sit there. You know, Roy always used to joke about Nordstrom's. You know, if I was trying clothes on, he always wanted to go over to a tool department, which of course Nordstrom's didn't have.
Right.
And my thing was, if he goes to Grizzly or wanted to go look at tools at Sears, I'd want there to be a makeup counter to go play at. So I get that. But rather than trying to guess what she might want, because sizing could be an issue. But if you decide to go buy her a pair of pants and you are horribly wrong on the size, if you buy a size that's way too small, she thinks you're buying it for your girlfriend. If you buy it way too big, she says, "Are you saying I'm fat?"
Yeah, I've failed in all those regards, and I should have asked you this a couple of years ago. No, that's
simply just take her. Just go on a date. You know, we're going to go buy this gun, or we're going to go buy these pants.
As simple as that sounds, it never occurred to me. And I'm probably not the only one, so there you go.
You can leave my fee for that counseling advice, sir.
Okay. Well, I've told a famous story before of I bought my wife a very expensive carry purse a couple of years ago, and I failed miserably, not because it wasn't a good purse, but I learned purses are very personal to women, and you don't just buy one because you will get the wrong one.
That's right. That's right. They are very personal. There's a lot of style. There's the way she wants it set up. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe she likes a 3-compartment purse, and you bought her basically a big sack with handles on it.
Well, I failed in every regard, style, and it was, it was a learning lesson. I think I ended up giving it away, so you just hope.
Well, call me next time.
Okay, we can do that. Now, getting back to just the industry in general, and again, when I say industry, I'm talking either just female shooters on the range or working within the industry. Help us guys understand where you're coming from, and do that by share a few bad experiences or less than optimal experiences that you personally have witnessed or been victim of. Obviously, we're not going to name names here, but just explain what it's like dealing with the guys and guns.
Oh, I think there's a misconception that because we have boobs, we're stupid when it comes to guns. I don't know. I don't like being
there's plain spoken Suzi.
I don't want to be talked down to.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what I'm looking at. It still happens at the SHOT Show. I could be wandering the floor and stop by somebody's booth, and a guy will come over and just talk to me like I'm a village idiot. Well, yeah. I wouldn't be at the SHOT Show if I didn't have a little idea of what was being presented there.
I just recently had that with our video editor, Sherry Legate. We were at an event, and somebody who didn't know her was trying to explain how a shotgun works. And
oh, good gravy.
yeah, Sherry's
Sherry, of all the people, needed somebody to explain how a shotgun works.
Exactly. And I actually pulled him aside and I said, she's medaled in international competition. She can probably pull a trigger. Oh, good. Thanks for telling me that. I thought, yeah.
And she is another person that is deserving of a shout out for blazing a trail for those of us, who have come into the industry even, later in life.
Yeah.
You look at, look at the pro shooters out there.
Oh, yeah.
Diana Lederoff. I'm probably mispronouncing her name. Kim Rohde, for crying out loud. Julie Golub. Look at these ladies who have been there, done that.
Yep.
Just a wealth of knowledge out there. And my hat's off to them.
Well, I know you, Suzi. I know you enough to know that you would hesitate to talk about negative experiences. So let's flip that. Talk about some positive experiences you've had where you thought, okay, I feel like we're equals here, and it made the day go better.
Well, I can actually kind of talk about both. I know that there are women out there who are afraid of taking classes with anything other than a female instructor, which for me, I don't necessarily agree with that. And my take on that is the most likely person who is going to be a threat to me is going to be a man.
Certainly.
And so if I'm learning to shoot, excuse me, or going through some sort of training, I would want it to be with the person who I'm most likely to have as my adversary.
Mm-hmm.
Now, having said that, you can have male instructors who are jackasses to women, talking down to them, making them feel stupid, using them as an example of how not to do things. So there's that whole list of things that male instructors can do wrong. But I think the overwhelming majority of the male instructors that I've been exposed to, they have all been gracious. They're not there to make you cry. They're there to teach you.
Yeah.
So there are some really bad actors out there. But I think the majority of the people that are there to help women really do understand that it's okay to be firm, right?
Yeah.
It's got women that are there to learn how to shoot. So they're not there to make flowers and bake a cake. So those are your great instructors.
Let's examine this a little bit more, because I was always fascinated. We teach introductory classes, and we always had mixed classes because of the reasons you said. If anything, a woman's got to be even better and harder because she's probably at a physical disadvantage in a confrontation. So we want her to be a gunfighter from hell. But we did learn eventually that some women, especially in the beginning, learn better in the company of other women. And so we started doing some female-only classes, and the ladies really enjoyed that. And I will say this as a chauvinistic male, you guys are as bad or worse than we are when you get in groups.
Oh, good God, yes. I'm not against women-only classes. My advice to women is have a nice mixture of both.
Yeah.
If you start out in a women's only class, that's great. And I think many schools are now offering women only classes as a great introduction. Again, that is a great idea. And remember, if you're doing something that is going to invite a group of women into your environment, A, you're embracing the women, and B, you're going to be making money off of them. So isn't that the whole idea, to grow your business?
Exactly.
So, don't ignore the obvious things that are available to you in order to bring more women into the shooting sports. I've been to many women-only classes and events. And yeah, you're right. We get really raunchy and can be probably worse than you guys. But maybe it's just because we're all at ease with each other and we're not worried about some guy thinking, oh, well, she's not very ladylike. Of course, I don't go to a shooting school to be ladylike,
well, exactly.
by the way. So no, there are some great women-only classes and women-only with women instructors. I've seen that too, and I believe Gunsight does that. So
yeah.
It's a good thing. It is a very good thing. But here's something. What if there's a woman instructor who's, I don't know. We've all seen this happen too. A group of women get together and there's one person that just kind of sticks out because they need to be getting all the attention,
mm-hmm.
or they want to be the alpha female. That can happen too. You know what? Bottom line is it's really no different than any other mixed bag.
Yeah.
I think it can all be just the same.
So the flip side of that is, what is your advice to ladies, especially, again, somebody of your level? You can hold your own in any circumstance. I completely believe that. But especially new shooters, of which there's, 7 or 8 million of them, and a significant percentage of those are female.
Yeah.
What advice do you give them when they're thinking, they're scared to go to a class because, are they going to yell at me? Are they going to treat me like an idiot? What do you tell your friends or people that ask you, should I do this?
Yes, because getting yelled at is not as bad as getting your clock cleaned or getting killed.
Good point.
I think any training, any learning is a good thing, even if it's negative, because you now know what doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
Right? So if some instructor has yelled at you or just really made you feel stupid, you know that is not what works for you. So your takeaway from that is, don't do that particular training with that particular instructor ever again. And here's the other thing. Write an evaluation that points it out, because the instructors may not be aware that they're being idiots.
Yep.
And so, if you don't participate in the evaluation process, then the school cannot have its instructors evolve.
And good instructors generally take it as, if you don't learn, that's my fault, because I didn't reach you in the way that got you to learn. So obviously there's a few people that are unteachable and untrainable, but most folks, if you're not getting through to them as a good professional instructor, you need to figure out a way to do that.
Sure. No, but not every student is an ideal student. I can't tell you the number of times I've been to a class where a student decides that they think they're going to teach the instructor a thing or two. Well, why are you here then?
Yeah.
Because you're not going to teach the instructor anything, and that's not why you're there.
Yep. Now, I remember something I read not too long ago, and it flabbergasted me. It was a story written by a lady, and she's an avid hunter, and she spends a lot of time at hunting camps. And a lot of times, and I wish I could remember her name, but it's on the internet, she spends a lot of time in hunting camps, and a lot of times is the only female there. And she had a very interesting story about basically code of conduct for the ladies. And it was good stuff, pretty straightforward. And she did say, most of the guys treat her just great, and you're just one of the crew, regardless of gender. But she did point out something is, you have to let the guys know right from the get-go you're not there to cook. I thought, wow, okay. I wouldn't have thought that way, but have you?
Wow.
Because you've hunted all over the place. Have you ever run into any issues at a hunting camp?
Gosh, nothing like that. Thank God, because if anybody ever thought that I was there to cook, I think I would have throat punched them.
I was going to say you're in a different category, Suzi. So.
And who knows what they would actually get served to them if I bothered to cook. No, I think the only things that historically kind of eat at my craw is when I get to a hunting camp, and it's usually the guides that get under my skin will be the guides who just, I don't know, for whatever reason, they have missed the whole evolution that there are a lot of women that come and do these things.
Yeah.
And they they just treat you like you're stupid.
Yeah.
I had one instance where I'd been traveling most of the day. Got in after dark. Everybody had beaten me, and this was a ladies only event too, by the way.
Wow.
And I'm not going to say where it was or who it was with because it's in the past, and I'm not going to drag their names down. But I was one of the last to get there. It was after dark. I was tired. I was hungry, and I was pretty much getting really bitchy. And they wanted me to sight in my rifle before I did anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And I had already dialed in my dope. It was all ready to go. It was in a hard case. I did not expect there to be any issues with the performance of the gun, but they wanted me to go out on their range and shoot it. And needless to say, I wasn't shooting real, I didn't have my A game on at that point.
Yeah.
So my guide comes over and he starts turning knobs on my scope, and I was pissed. So I think for me, it's things like that I think can be problematic in a hunting camp or in an environment where there's a code of conduct. It's not necessary for women to be treated any differently.
Yeah.
Having said that, guys, don't parade around butt-ass naked while we're there, okay? Please.
Because I'm sure Suzi would let you know in very straightforward terms what she thinks about it. and men have more fragile egos than women, I think, in that regard.
I'd break out a ruler and a magnifying glass. That's right. What are you going to do with that?
Wow. Oh, Suzi, you're always entertaining to talk to. And so, to close this out, what would you like to tell guys, whether it's in a dealing with a manufacturer at the SHOT Show, you're dealing with a guide, you're dealing with a guy at a gun shop that you've never met before, what would you just want to tell them? Just
treat us like we're everybody else. Just treat us like we're another guy.
Mm-hmm.
Don't make us feel stupid. Because I'm here to tell you, if women don't understand something, they're probably going to ask you to explain it.
Mm-hmm.
But just treat us no differently than you would your friend that you go shooting with. It's all exactly the same.
Yep.
Now, physiologically, you cannot deny there are physiological differences. Yes, men are generally stronger than women. Got it. Check. Mark. Okay, we've checked that off.
Mm-hmm.
But just treat us the same. Because if we're going to struggle with something, it'll be very obvious that we are struggling with it. And only at that point should we consider about maybe taking another look at something not as forceful, not as big. But we're all just as smart as you guys. We do like to go play. We like to play hard just like you guys do. The ones that don't, they kind of make themselves obvious.
Anything we didn't cover here, Suzi?
I've walked around the SHOT Show, and there are thousands of women who are there conducting business.
Yep.
They aren't just the booth babes. They are conducting business. And it wasn't like that 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Same thing could be said out on the ranges. We aren't there to just look cute.
Well, we like it when you look cute.
Sure, but yeah. We don't want to be cute before the shooting. We want the shooting to occur and then somebody say, oh, she's kind of cute too.
Exactly. Well, Suzi, thanks for chatting with us. It's been very eye-opening, and like I said about in the middle there probably some life-saving advice for us Neanderthal guys about selecting stuff for your ladies. So anyway, we appreciate you talking to us, and one of these days we're going to get out and go shooting together.
Thank you, Brent. It's good talking to you.
Suzi's always a hoot, and if you do ever end up in hunting camp with her, you definitely want to wear a towel coming out of the shower, or the ego that is destroyed will probably be yours. And with that, we hope you're enjoying the Guns Magazine podcast. Please tell all your friends, even the liberals. Guns Magazine is #1 in the business, and we're using our decades of friendships to bring you the most interesting chats in the gun world. If you've got questions or comments, please drop me a line. That's editor@gunsmagazine.com. Make sure you don't miss out on anything by subscribing to us wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Of course, you can always listen and download our episodes at gunsmagazine.com, and we'd all appreciate it if you'd share a favorite episode on your own social media channels. And while you're online, don't forget to check out our great sister publication, American Handgunner Magazine, at americanhandgunner.com. That's it for this episode of the Guns Magazine podcast. On behalf of our hardworking staff here at FMG Publications, I'm Guns Magazine editor Brent Wheat, wishing you a safe and happy new year. Now, get out there and get shooting.